Hey guys, this is Donald. Wanted to put out a video. It's been a while. And, honestly, I think now at the time I got some good content for you guys. And frankly, I only want to put out videos when it makes sense, right? I don't want to do things just to adhere to a certain schedule in terms of content. I know it can help a lot in terms of YouTube algorithms and such, but my goal with this is not to be like famous or to have like a giant 100,000 person channel. It's not my goal, but I do want to help as many people as possible. And so if you're watching this video, I'm glad you're here, and hopefully you can, take a look at some of my additional content. If you've already seen most of my stuff or all of my stuff, here's another video for you, and hope you enjoy it. So, the premise of this video is why I am starting, actually mid-launch and technically launch, on 2 different call centers right now. And I'll talk a bit more about, what the concepts are in a second. But the important thing is that there's been a lot of people asking me whether or not it's still a good time to start a call center. I launched the course Call Center Cast about 2.5 years ago now. And a lot has happened since January 2020 and to now. A lot of people can be a little bit nervous about starting things, especially if they've never started a business before. And so often also a lot of people that, put information out there and have courses on certain topics and such, they're not actually participating in what they're teaching, right? Either they've never participated or they don't plan on ever doing it again. So I want to show you guys that in my case, that's not the case. I fully believe in the call center model to the extent that I'm working on 2 at the same time, even after having what was really a life-changing exit in my last company, Vicky Virtual. So if you don't know much about me, I just want to give a quick primer. I started a company called Vicky Virtual Receptionist, launched it January 1st of 2015. We grew that. I won't get into numbers here, but was able to sell that in October of 2019. The 4th company that I've been able to sell and sort of exit from out of many more that I've started. And by far, it was a game-changing sale. I hadn't sold anything since, or anything near that level. And so, since I sold the company, the main thing that I've really been working on is just having a course, which has honestly been a somewhat casual effort, right? I put a lot of effort into creating something that was great because I saw that there was nothing out there already. And I wanted there to be something that was good because it's what I would have wanted when I was first working on this back in late 2014, going into 2015. And so with that in mind, again, when you put yourself out there a little bit and you have a course, again, if you look at all my social media channels, you're not going to find a lot of followers. And so, maybe I'm getting a bit of a cult following here, but I'm not someone that's trying to be famous, and I'm not trying to go crazy. And so my point is that even with the little bit of putting myself out there I've been doing, the little bit of content and value I've been putting out there, I've constantly had people hit me up, pitch me ideas. I have invested in a bunch of companies over the last few years, but in terms of actually involving myself in a new project, obviously I don't want to work on something unless I feel very strongly about it. And so, again, why am I starting 2 new call centers in 2022? Right before a recession, right? And I decided to got an outline over here of really the reason why I was excited about the virtual receptionist company, Vicky Virtual, in the first place. These items that I'm about to go through have not really changed. There's a few things that are different dynamically because of my current situation versus in 2014. But overall, the philosophy is the same. And so, 1, businesses need this. There are companies in, I believe, every single industry that have a need for phone support or some type of customer service support that's sort of real time, right? Whether it's phones or live chat or SMS, something. And so, oftentimes it's not smart for a company to do it in-house. Either they're utilizing their current staff to do it, or they're trying to, hire somebody, and then they just hire somebody in-house, pay them more money than is necessary to have this handled, because we have a service that can do the same thing for significantly less. Fractional cost. In the U.S., it's typically, $3,000 or more to have a full-time receptionist, and you're only getting 40 hours of coverage from one receptionist, presumably. Where, the average business that used Vicky Virtual was paying us around $300 a month, and they got significantly more than 40 hours a week in support. I can't remember what the number is now, but what is it? We did at least 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., so that's 60 hours a week, Monday through Friday, right? So it's a way more economical transaction, and it's something that businesses need. Somebody got to do it, right? Remember that. Whenever you're approaching business prospects and you're thinking about this, someone had to be the one that handles phone calls, or else that business is probably missing out on sales, leaving money on the table, okay? You provide that closing the gap service for them. It is needed. It is needed. And to give you an idea, there are still so many industries that are underserved. A lot of people worry about saturation. Even in industries that have a lot of people using this type of service, it's nowhere near the tackling or whatever of the entire industry. Most businesses in every industry that needs this type of service are not using this type of service. Okay. But again, there's a lot of industries that are underserved. Both of my call centers are going to be serving industries that right now are completely underserved. One of them being the course creation and sort of consulting, coaching industry. And the other is actually going to be in the cannabis space, which I'm very excited about. So, in these industries that are underserved in general, you get the beauty of having a proven business model, right, that has obviously worked in other industries, and it's in the hundreds of billions of dollars. I actually didn't even know this. I just looked it up. The call center industry worldwide, globally, is expected to hit $500 billion a year in value by 2027. So 5 years from now, $500 billion industry. I might even put that in the title of the video. Why I'm starting 2 call centers in the $500 billion call center industry. So, it's a great solution for industries that haven't realized the value of this service yet, and how it can help their own companies within the industry where they can get ahead. And again, I got this outline over here to make this video a bit more smooth, so bear with me. Now, another thing is that recurring revenue is awesome, right? There's so many different businesses where, you have to get a sale and then you go for the next customer. You try to find the next customer. It's a constant grind, it's a constant hustle. And hopefully you can have, if you're building something significant, you got some type of machine that sort of automates the process of exposing yourself to potential prospects and eventually getting a sale. But the real business, the largest businesses in the world, are businesses that can get the same customers coming back to give more money. And it's a lot easier if it's recurring, right? It could be as small as my Google One membership, where I have online cloud storage. I think I get 2 terabytes or something, and I pay $2 a month for it, right? Very small in terms of my monthly budget, but if you have a couple million people, tens of millions of people that are taking advantage of that, that adds up to a lot of money, right? And in our case, every single client that you ever have that continues to use you is going to be recurring. So when we would land a client, our retention was around 22 months. So you land a client that's paying you $300 a month on average, lifetime value at 22 months is $6,600. So say you make a 25%, net profit margin on any client that you bring in. If on average you're bringing in $6,600, I gotta do some quick math here. $1,650 you're making in profit on every single client that you bring in, on average, which is incredible. So a lot of people are like, well, they're only spending $300 a month. Why would I spend $300 to make the sale? Well, because on the back end, you're making $1,650 in profit. If you're able to get your numbers higher than that, like your average is higher than $300 a month, or your retention is longer than 22 months, or your profit margin as a percentage is higher, then your profitability, your lifetime value, everything is even better, right? And I'm actually, in the case of both of these new companies, at least in terms of price per month, it's going to be significantly higher, and our profitability is going to be higher. So why? One of the reasons is that, and this is something that I wouldn't have known the first time, but I'm glad I know enough this time, is we're actually going to be using overseas talent. So again, I'm in the US, you might be somewhere else, right? If you're watching this wherever you are. But in Western market, oftentimes people are using Western talent to serve Western clients, right? So, and then we're charging, of course, Western prices for those services. So in the US, I was using US-based people, charging US-based prices, and had mostly US-based clients. We did have some international ones, plenty in Canada especially, but even like Australia, Ireland, Africa, all over. And the point is that we were spending a certain amount on payroll because we had US-based people, right? This time around, I'm using overseas people. We've got people in Eastern Europe, we've got people in Zimbabwe, and I'm actually learning Spanish now because eventually we're going to be sourcing people out of South America, most likely Colombia, okay? So I'm very excited about it. It's going to provide good jobs for people globally. I don't think so much about, America, because why would I? We're global citizens, and, frankly, in the U.S., even though things are hard and people are sort of underemployed, even if they have a job, our unemployment rate is about 3.5%. Now, believe me, I know that it's very tough out there, but it doesn't compare to what's going on in Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, it's the fourth most educated country in Africa, and out of 50 countries in Africa, it's the fourth most educated, and yet, and you won't see this online, but they have an 80% unemployment rate. Imagine an 80% unemployment rate in the U.S., right? It wouldn't even exist. The company would implode somewhere around 25 to 30%. The Great Depression, I believe, we had unemployment around 28, 29%. And now the Great Depression, way more significant than anything any of us have really gone through. And so my point is this. In having overseas talent, yes, your profitability goes up, but you're also providing opportunity to people that don't have opportunity. In the U.S., you can always get a job. It just might not be the job you need, or a job that maybe pays you enough to, live a nice lifestyle. But in other countries, Eastern Europe, Serbia, Bosnia, where we're also sourcing from, Zimbabwe, all over the globe, there are people that don't have enough, and they're willing to do pretty much anything, but the opportunity isn't there. It's not like, this opportunity is not good. The opportunity isn't there. So I feel really good being able to provide opportunity to these people while honestly making more money. And the other beautiful thing is that the talent ends up being better, right? If you're paying $15 an hour, $16 an hour here in the U.S., you can get some pretty good people. But the people that are really sharp are taking the job so that they can, be fed and eventually leave, right? That's just a reality. It's just not enough money here. And, I don't fault them for doing that. It's not enough money here to make that much money. But if you pay, $5 an hour or $7 an hour in certain countries, that person they could have their master's degree, and this is a job that pays better than being a pharmacist or an accountant or an attorney. It pays better than being a police officer or a teacher in a lot of these countries. And so you get the sharpest people that are building a career, building a household, building a family, and real true stability and prosperity with what we consider to be a lower wage. Now, there's a lot of people out there that want to take this and they find the absolute cheapest person they can find. They'll look for people for $2 an hour and $3 an hour and get frustrated as to why these people aren't extremely happy. They're not going to be extremely happy when you're paying like about what they would make in their countries regardless, but it happened to be for an American company now. You want to pay more so you can get better people, and it still ends up being less expensive than the U.S. So we're doing that this time around, and again, I'm excited about it. Again, I've looked into many different companies after I sold my company. I wasn't too ready to get back to work immediately, but the reality is that just being an entrepreneurial person, you're considering different ideas and things all the time, right? And so, I was like, well, what would I do if not a call center? And again, I've sold companies in 4 different industries, so I have tried different things and I'm open, obviously. But the reality is that call centers are awesome. People still don't realize it. But one of the things I like the most is that there's so many great novel, clever ideas out there. Call centers are simple, right? We simply have to go to our prospect in an industry and market that already exists and we don't have to create. And we say, listen, do you need your calls answered? Well, we can handle them for you. How are you currently getting your calls handled? Is it ideal? No. Well, we can handle it for you. And it's going to cost you less money than it will cost you to do it yourself. We're going to provide better coverage hours. You're going to have more opportunity to answer calls from potential clients of your own company. And it will cost significantly less. It's a simple concept, right? Obviously, my course, there's a lot of different things that can make it sort of ridiculous. There's a lot of trial and error, and I had to go through most of it. And my course makes that a lot easier for you. I will say that. But at the end of the day, the only thing you're doing is finding people to answer the phone for businesses that need the phones answered, right? And when something is like not that complicated, it makes my mind, a lot more calm, and it keeps me sane when I'm working on that new project. I'm working on 2 things at once in a serious way, which is crazy. Anybody that understands starting a business knows that's crazy, but because they're call centers, it's actually not that bad. So that's why I'm doing it. Now, another thing is I know what I'm doing this time around. In 2014, I didn't know anything. In 2015, maybe a little bit in 2016, I didn't know much. I was guessing things. I didn't know any of the acronyms. I didn't know how much I should be charging. I didn't know what makes my prospect tick in terms of, okay, these are the real pain points that they actually have in different industries. This time around, I know it. It's very easy for me to implement all of the steps that it takes to launch it. There's a new dynamic again, of course, in terms of being in new industries and as well as working with overseas talent, which really isn't that different, but there's some dynamic changes there. And this time around, we're actually using a few different new tools that I'm excited about. But the reality is that I noticed. And so because I noticed, it's much more easier to say, hey, I can hit another home run here. So, when you're putting your time into something, when you don't have to put your time in the industry into anything, it's definitely, nice to work on something that you feel very confident about because you already know it, right? And so I've been able to learn from my mistakes, and this time around, again, I can just approach this in a much smarter way and hit the ground running. And then the final thing is I'll have help. In the case of one of the companies, I was approached by who is now my business partner, Ron Douglas. The industry that we're sort of tackling in this project, which is called Course Agents, I'll actually link it here. With Course Agents, we are serving the coaching and consulting industry, and Ron is one of the biggest coaches and consultants out there. He runs an awesome sort of conference each year with a few partners that are also huge in the industry in their own right. His own course has done million right? Best-selling author. So he's a fantastic partner, and his job is to get our clients, and I just have to set up the call center. Great, right? So I have help. In the other case, I actually took the unconventional route of raising a small friends and family funding round. I raised a little bit over $100,000 in 8 days, and most of the purpose of that was so that rather than having a co-founder, which I didn't want to have to deal with too many co-founders this time around, I was able to have people that are invested in helping the company achieve success. So going into the cannabis space with the call center, I wanted to have people that were sort of big in the industry, So on my advisory board, I have someone that was an exec at, I think, a top 3 size company on the planet in cannabis. I have someone that was able to sell a large cannabis company. I have somebody that's one of the top attorneys in the cannabis space. I have someone that represents one of the largest, actually the largest financial services companies in the space, that serve the space. And, I've got someone that it just has incredible pedigree. And so what they can do is essentially be my built-in network of people that are invested in my success, essentially, right? Because they put their money into it. I'm going to take in their feedback and their advice. And so collectively, it's like having a bit of a co-founder without having to give up, the 50% equity that you're giving to a co-founder. So, that's why I took this approach. And so when you combine all those things, right, it puts me in a situation that I'm excited about. I feel very blessed. I'm not surprised at this point that, I'm able to say, okay, listen, I want to start a call center and people are going to back me. But 10 years ago, it was an absolute dream to be able to say, hey, you know what, I want to raise money. I want to be able to work with high caliber people. I want to be able to create a company that makes me money and that I feel confident going into it. And so I want that for you as well, right? I want you to be able to start something that's a simple concept, is like battle tested as a business. It's definitely going to stick around as something that businesses need in the future, and that you can make some nice profit on so that you can actually sustain yourself without having a huge company, right? Because it is hard, no matter how good you are and how good the business is, it is hard to make over $1 million a year in revenue. Only 4% of entrepreneurs or businesses, not entrepreneurs, businesses ever achieve that. And only 4% of entrepreneurs, and this blew my mind, only 4% of entrepreneurs make over $100,000 a year. So you can certainly do and achieve both of those things in this industry, especially in a niche, the answering services niche, that does over $2 million in revenue on average in the U.S. The average company is doing over $2 million a year. And when you're doing over $2 million a year, you are making over $100,000 in profit. Okay? So, I hope you enjoyed this message. I hope that this gives you some inspiration in terms of, if you're on the fence about whether you should start a call center. The reality is that call centers have been killing it for a while. I don't know why people aren't talking about it. It's probably one of the few currently $300 billion industries that people don't talk about enough in terms of you being able to enter it pretty easily, especially with my help. So if you have any thoughts about this video, please, like the video, please, and then leave some comments. I'll be happy to answer them. And if you enjoy the content, I have a few more videos coming out, especially in the near future. And I'm also doing a weekly question and answer call. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and you can keep updated with that. Other than that, again, it's good to see you guys after so long, and have a good rest of your weekend. And I hope you guys enjoy the coming days.